Happy day, everybody, and welcome to Bold Badass Business, where we bring you the boldest badasses in the business world who are going to help you boost your profits, increase your reach, and be the bold badass who you are in the planet. And today, you all, I am super excited to have Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville, who is a leadership expert. She's also an expert in healing. And what is so fascinating is that Dr. Dorothy is going to share with me and you her incredible system that can predict your health and wealth and based on your leadership type. How cool is that? So you know how you used to do those little assessments, y'all, when you were in like high school, those little fun personality assessments? Well, this today is going to be way deeper, and you're going to understand something new about yourself that is going to help you in your business. So don't you dare leave here. You stay for Dr. Dorothy. And Dr. Dorothy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
I'm fascinated by what we're going to talk about. Literally, when you and I talked about this, I had never heard anybody doing this kind of work. I think it's really, really phenomenal. And you have an exciting gift to give everybody at the end, so they got to stick around, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, y'all. Don't you go anywhere. You'll be sorry you did. So, Dorothy, tell us a little bit about your story and how you started the institute that you started, the Institute of Healing Arts and Sciences.
Correct. Yes? Correct. Yes. What happened is I had become a psychotherapist and I was seeing 42 patients a week. And I was blessed with a 6-month waiting list that lasted almost 20 years until I actually left the country. I moved to the Caribbean for 10 years and then came back. And what happened is about 3 years into my practice, I started noticing patterns. I started noticing that certain folks were coming in with prostate disorders or coming in with breast cancer or breast cysts issue, repeated cysts and so forth, and some coming in with autoimmune disorders. And when I noticed there were certain personality styles that were presenting with each of these, I asked friends who were MD specialists if they'd noticed a certain personality in their particular patients. And they said, no, it's purely coincidental, absolutely coincidental. I don't happen to believe in coincidence. So I thought I want to look into this and find out more. And so I began my search to look at integrative health, to look at alternative programs and so forth. And this was back in the 80s when integrative health was still not something very big in this United States. It was a very underground almost type of approach to healthcare. And so what I did is I spent 4 years at Barbara Brennan, and then I spent time in Amherst, Massachusetts, becoming certified in advanced acupressure, iridology, reflexology, and so forth. So I could understand what is really going on here. And in the Eastern thought and in the world of healing, there's much more of a recognition that our belief systems, our spiritual belief systems about life is a gift or life is a horrible burden to carry, impacts us emotionally. And so those spiritual beliefs impact us emotionally, depression, rage, anxiety, whatever, there's too many variables. And that then impacts us physiologically. Because with certain emotions, they create lots of stress in the body. Stress impacts the immune system. And the immune system is what keeps us strong and healthy against whatever viruses or diseases or whatever may be going around. And I was intrigued by how certain people were more susceptible than others.
Now, this is so interesting. I want to pause you for a second. And you all, I really want you to listen to what she's laying down, which is basically that our personality type, our thoughts, our beliefs really impact our health. And whether or not you believe in this in a sort of spiritual way, those of you listening, it really doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is we know from science that high stress levels are a direct have a direct impact on the development of disease in the body. We know that. And we know that chronically high levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, contribute to disease. So you're taking it even a step further and looking at people's beliefs, their ways of living, their ways of thinking, and really cataloging those.
Right. Because I found it intriguing. And once I start noticing patterns, my natural inclination is to say, let's look at this pattern. Let's look at how it starts, where it develops, where it's going, and what we can do with it, because I find them so intriguing. And so that's really where I went, and ended up just doing so much, just in research in my own office and keeping records, keeping scores. Who are these people that are coming in with chronic fatigue syndrome, who are coming in with fibromyalgia, which was a brand new disorder, brand new discovered disorder at
Right,
that
right, right, right.
time. And so, in working with fibro and working with chronic fatigue and working with different types of cancers, it was intriguing to me the types of people that came in with it. And my first question was always, what was going on at point of onset? What was happening in your life when this disease started to develop, or the symptoms of this disease started to develop? And always there was a situation in their life that was a major stressor for them. Always. And so it really, caused me to look at what goes on. And what I came to understand is that the adrenal system is something that's called upon theoretically in times of crises. It is called upon in a major situation. There's a flood. Your adrenals jump in and you become amazingly capable of swimming much further than you had thought was possible, or running away much faster than you normally could ever do. I mean, we've all heard stories of a mom being able to pick up a car if her baby's underneath it.
Yes.
That's amazing types of physical strength we develop in a crisis, which is what the adrenals are really about. However, in Western culture, especially here in the US, people are living from a place of crises, a mindset of crises. If I don't get this client, I'm going to lose my house. If I don't get this job, I'm going to lose my family. If I don't get this, everything becomes a crisis. So what ends up happening is we start draining the adrenals. And when the adrenals start to become weak, they look for energy, they look for supplement from the immune system. Mm-hmm. So with this mentality that life is about survival, which unfortunately is what we're really living in, so many of us in a state of survival rather than living. And as a therapist, I saw that repeatedly. So few of the people I was seeing were truly living their lives filled with passion and joy and vibrancy. They were getting through the day. They were struggling. They were surviving because they were battling crises one after another, battling whatever circumstances were going on in their life, perceived or real. I mean, for many of us.
All right, I'm going to pause you for a second, because what you just said, perceived or real, that is powerful. Now, you all who are listening, here's the thing: the mind does not differentiate between perceived threat and real threat. And the body is going to go into that fight, flight, freeze,
always.
One of those,
always,
depending on whether it's perceived or it's real. And so basically, I think that we're getting a little spiritual here, but that's okay. Buddhism, suffering is caused by our attachment to suffering.
Right.
That comes to mind as we talk about this today, as you're talking, that, when we're attached to this idea of, there's just one thing after another, one crisis after another. Well, what happens? It begins to outpicture in our lives. But also, even if something is in a crisis, we make it into one.
We create, we bring in what we expect. We see what we expect to see. So take a look at the moment. This is not a distraction, but take a look at the moment of road rage. What is road rage about? It's people that are so highly stressed on getting somewhere, wherever there is. If I don't get there on time, or if I don't get there early, it's going to be a crisis. If I don't get to this meeting early, they're not going to like me. They're not going to accept me. It's not going to work. I'm going to lose that assignment. I'm going to lose that job. I'm going to lose whatever it is. And so, oh my God, I've got to get there. And so all of this danger, all of this driving, all of this extreme emotion that shows up, we do that to ourselves. The fact is, with all of that panic, all of that rushing, you may get there 4 minutes earlier. And is that 4 minutes really going to be what causes you to lose a job, to lose a client, to lose whatever? And if you know that traffic is going to be really bad, why didn't you leave a half an hour early? Get there 15 minutes early, and you can relax and be at peace. So there are things, stories we create in life, patterns we create, that always getting there immediately on time. What if we immediately got there 15 minutes early? What if it was one of those immediate things for us that is important to me, that I always, always show up 15 minutes early? I can sit in my car, look at emails, look at Facebook,
Mhm.
whatever it is you choose to do, meditate. I can do that and then walk in peace. When that kind of a lifestyle based on inner peace, based on calm, based on being present rather than in crises, we're never going to the adrenals. They're staying there as a reserve in case, God forbid, they are ever needed, and truly ever needed, which allows us being at peace. There's no stress. So with no stress, the immune system isn't being challenged.
And
So it's
when we do this, okay, I'm going to say it, this mind F of ourselves, right? And it is a mind F of judgment, of this frenetic energy, of putting too much on our plates, which is how, American society really operates. It's like you just keep adding stuff, get more stuff, right? Get more stuff in your house, get more things to do this, do that, go buy this. There's so much that is cluttered
right,
in our North American United States, for instance, society, that to reach a space of a kind of simplicity can be very challenging. But what you're saying, that one idea of, well, make sure that you get somewhere 15 minutes or 10 minutes early, have a book in your car, and you can enjoy that book. Maybe a book with short chapters that gives you a little bit of upliftment. You can enjoy that. And then you can go into a meeting grounded and calm,
right.
breathing from your belly rather than breathing up here, which is that kind of survival breath that doesn't even oxygenate our bodies, you know?
Mm-hmm. And
So
you
I love that
recognize
this is
it.
coming from you, Dr. Dorothy, as you are a therapist. You are a trained therapist, psychotherapist, and I love that that you are looking at the impact of our actions and the impact of our thoughts on our bodies
Right.
and on our way of being in the world, and how these are contributing to our disease, our unhappiness, our all of that. And
Yeah.
you know what I was thinking when you were talking about the time? I was thinking, yeah, you get there on time, but those 4 minutes that you were rushing, or longer than that, how many years of your life did it take off?
Well,
Because
and how
the
did you show up? Because if I walk into a meeting and I'm like this already, how effective am I going to be? I want to walk into a meeting really with the presence of being empowered, of being present in the meeting, of being really
stress.
there for the people that are in the room with me, not walk into a meeting like I'm trying to get it together, because I should have had it together before I even walked into the building, much less walked into this conference room. So there's a real big difference. And it really comes down to, if I'm going to live in and I want things immediately, well, immediately I'm going to say to myself, 15 minutes early is on time.
Hmm.
How can I arrange it to be there 15 minutes early? And it's okay if I sit in my car. It's okay if I sit in a waiting room. It's okay if I go to the bathroom and just get myself comfortable so I can walk into it with complete ease. It really becomes a lifestyle choice. And so
Beautiful.
when we go back and I would look at what was going on at point of onset, and I would hear about something. One woman, the first woman who ever came to me with fibromyalgia, I said, what was going on at point of onset for you? And this is back before it was diagnosed.
Mhm.
Many times it was called rheumatoid arthritis. It was mixed in with arthritis. It was mixed in with other disorders because physicians didn't know how to diagnose it. So we had to re-diagnose, if you will, when finally they come up with an 18-point classification. If these 18 points, 16 of them are acute when the doctors touch them, then we're going to call this fibromyalgia. And so now we have a diagnostic tool for that. However, when I was working with folks who would come in One woman said, when I said, what was point of onset, she said, my daughter, there was a very tall Swedish look, 6'2", and blonde, long blonde hair. She was doing her junior year abroad in Japan. And the mother said, I'm awake every night. I'm a nervous wreck. I don't know how to handle this. What if she goes there and she's taller than everybody on the street? She's going to stick out. People aren't going to like her. She's going to have not going to have friends. She doesn't speak the language well. It's going to be horrible. What if she's lonely? There's a time difference. She can't call me. I may be sound asleep. And you could see the mother just doing this, right? And
Yes.
what if she finds people who absolutely treasure her? What if she loves the culture so profoundly that it enriches her life in a way that she will never, ever forget the experience? What if she learns how to live in another culture and expands her view of the world and the beauty in it? I never thought of that. All right. So let's take a look at what it means to love. And for my doctoral dissertation, I received NIH grant funding, and I did research on the psychological and spiritual causes of fibromyalgia, and really looked at it's a bladder meridian disorder, which is fear around an inability to protect others. And so it made
And an inability or ability?
Inability
To protect us. Okay.
the huge stress that develops because of my inability to protect somebody
us.
I love.
Okay.
And her inability to protect her daughter, who was doing junior year abroad because she was going to be thousands of miles away, was being held in her body in such a way that it followed the pattern of the bladder meridian, which ended up being diagnosed as fibromyalgia. So working with her, when I could allow her to see that loving somebody means wanting them to fly. Loving somebody means wanting to support them to become everything they're capable of becoming. And that takes risk throughout our lives. We don't grow if we don't take risks. Throughout our lives, we don't grow if we don't go through different experiences. That doesn't call different parts of us out. Every new experience calls out something in us that we didn't know we possessed, or strength, perhaps, or a skill we didn't know we needed. We develop it because we're following another dream. When she could begin to see that absolutely loving her was not about protecting her. Loving her was being there, having her back. So if and when she needed to call, somebody would be there to support her and answer her call. It didn't mean preventing her from ever having to face challenges and struggles, and really growing and coming alive and perhaps thriving in a different culture.
You're speaking my language, Dr. Dorothy. You're speaking my language, because I want to tell you, I've got a couple of teenagers right now. Don't need to go into all the details, but I got a couple of teenagers who are in my life right now, and there's a lot going on with them. And I realized Mama got pissed off and just said, hey, you guys, that I'm not doing you any favors by letting you sit around and be depressed, and letting you leave your dishes in the sink, and letting you not go look for a job, and that is not doing you any favors. No. Coddling is not a recipe for success.
Oh, it isn't.
There's a lot. There's actually a lot in this new generation too, Dr. Dorothy. I think that there's this, I don't know about you, but I was brought up with standards of excellence, and it was intense pressure at times. It was very intense, but I had to rise to that. And these kids nowadays are expecting things just to come to them. This or they've just given up in despair that they're not going to come to them. And I just think we've got a lot of work to do to teach our kids now the work ethic. Not that it has to be struggle, but the work ethic, the amount of time and energy put into creating something, Well,
self-esteem comes from the successes we create. Exactly. And success could be as minimal as learning how to clean the kitchen, learning how to make a bed and keep a beautiful room. It doesn't matter. When we have success at something, we feel good about who we are. And it really supports us in falling in love with ourselves and seeing all the gifts we have, seeing our ability to learn, our ability to adapt, our ability to truly be present. Then you start thinking, well, I can do this. I can handle this. I know what I'm doing. And then wow, I wonder what else is out there. I wonder what else I could explore. I wonder what else I could learn. I wonder who else I could become, and what other gifts about me I could recognize. And it really allows our children to thrive. But notice what it also does, it allows us to sit back and not give up our journey in order to support our child living theirs.
Exactly. We can't do it for them.
No,
And we also can't be the ones who want it for them more than they want it for themselves.
right.
And this was the thing, and I love it. My daughter will sometimes say, and you may identify with this, she'll be like, Mom, you're not my coach. And I'll say, well, honey, that's true, but I am a coach. Usually, you ask too many questions. But I'll say, what are your resources? What are your resources? Well, I don't have any. I don't have somebody I can call to get a ride. I said, I'm not talking about your external resources. What are your inner resources?
Right.
And I will not tell them, well, what do you think they are? No, I'm not going to tell you that. What do you think they are?
Right.
You
So,
know,
going back to looking at the diseases itself, it's her ability to define her life and go forward that will give her the spiritual, emotional, and physical health she needs. And as a mom, having the ability to trust her process and support it as needed, but to trust her process allows you not to get lost, because so frequently moms can disappear in their children.
yes,
Then the mom ends up later becoming physically ill. So how do we become, what does love mean? Does it mean a support system, or does it mean I carry you? And that goes through in so many of the disorders that we work with, is when you are at peace with who you are. And none of us are always 100% at
no,
welcome to humanity. But when that's basically where you live, and you leave it for a bit and come back, it's dramatically different than those who never at peace, those who live in existential fear as a way of being. Then that's where the chronic stress gets perpetuated, and then that chronic stress starts impacting us. We're all born with physical vulnerabilities. For some of us, it may be a propensity. Our family lineage has diabetes. For somebody else, it's arthritis. For somebody else, it's diverticulitis. Whatever it may be, we
depression,
have that
whatever.
depression. It could be depression or acute anxiety. And the fact is, that's our background. But no predisposition needs to be actualized. You can have both parents are diabetic, and they have 5 children. All 5 children are not going to be diabetic. Statistically, if you do the research, you'll notice that maybe 2, perhaps 3 of those children become diabetic. What's the variable? Look at the lifestyle. The 2 that didn't become diabetic developed.
Mhm.
They look at life differently. They eat differently. Perhaps they exercise more. They have more joy in their life. There's more going on. If you look at the 3 who are diabetic, they're still eating the way the parents did. They're living the same lifestyle the parents did. They may even decorate the way the parents did.
Yep,
So look at what happens, that
yep.
when we create a different worldview, we walk through life differently. And there we don't end up developing those predispositions. We end up developing a system that's ours. And it's just dramatically different. And I share all of this based on my experience of my work, and 19 years having a school, the Institute of Healing Arts and Sciences, teaching this to physicians, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, massage therapists, occupational therapists, and lay people who wanted to become healers. So there's so much that we can do. There's so much that we can learn when we're willing to step back and recognize that disease always happens in a context, to recognize that stress is a major producer of actualizing any of the vulnerabilities in our body. And because our immune system is weakened, it also leaves us more predisposed to what is in the air, if you will. That makes us so much more vulnerable. Because somebody could walk into a room with 40 people with highly contagious disease, and all 40 are not going to get it. You may have 20 or 30 that get it. What's the similarity? What's the energy vibration? What's happening with those that get it? And what's the variable for why did others not get it? Why were they not vulnerable to the same extent that those were? It's what's going on in their system, what's going on emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
And I want to relate this to business a little bit for everyone too, because what we're talking about essentially in taking care of yourself, right?
Mhm.
And taking care of business and not taking on other people's stuff for them, right? Is also applicable to business.
Right.
Because you'll have sometimes people in business who will ghost you, right? They'll say, "Oh, I need your services so much," and blah, 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 blah. And they're so excited. And then suddenly they turn around and they're nowhere to be found. These kinds of things are going to happen. And it's so important, I believe, that we stay true to our mission and not attempt to do it for someone, right? Because we
Right.
can't. We
No, we
simply can't.
can't. No, we can't rescue. Plus, if we attempt to rescue somebody, what we're saying to them is, I know how to do your life better than you do.
And you're not good enough to do it. That's the second part. You need me.
If we step out of our ego, we can
Yeah.
begin to recognize we don't know how to do their life better than they do. We
All
may
right, Dr. Dorothy, I got to interrupt you. I'm not even going to say I'm going to pause you. I'm going to just like interrupt you right now because something was suggested to me by one of my coaches. And I said, oh my God, he's so hit it. He said, you have got, and he was talking to me, but also talking to a lot of people in the same room. He said, you've got to realize that you can't be the hero. You
right.
don't need to be the hero. And you got to give up that desire to be the hero for someone
Mhm.
else.
You're right.
And I have just chewed and chomped on that for the last few days and thought, yes, that is so hitting me. Like, I want to be the hero. I want to be that person who could say, oh, yeah, you did it. You look
Right.
what you did. And yeah, you did it. You used this thing that I gave you, or you took it and
Mhm.
implemented. But truthfully, we got to give that up. And
And the reality is, you're a badass. You can be a badass without rescuing people. You can
yes,
be a badass by giving somebody a hand up. If they're willing to take your hand, you can take their hand and help them
mm,
stand up and shine. If they're not willing to take your hand, are not there yet. What I taught my students often
mm,
was you have to respect their timing as well as their process.
mm.
And when we don't respect their timing as well as their process, we are disrespecting them.
And
So
sometimes we have to hit the bottom of the bottom, don't we? Sometimes we have to go low. It's like,
we cannot define somebody else's bottom. They
yes,
have to
right.
reach their own bottom. And so
Yeah.
when it comes to business, when it comes to leadership, there are many different styles of leadership. As I've shared with you, I've developed a leadership self-assessment tool. And what happens is that there are different styles of leadership. We were taught traditionally there's one style, you take charge, you're the boss, and this is the way it goes. What we have recognized, thankfully, over time is that there are many different styles of leadership, and each one holds their stress differently. There is the thought leader, that very creative, imaginative leader that can come up with some amazing ideas, amazing products, but does not have the ability to make it happen.
Mhm.
But that does not mean that they're not an effective leader. They are wonderful at getting people to think out of the box and find 14 different ways of using one of your products and how valuable they are to the company. And then there's that other leader that may not have original thought in their head, but they can take your ideas and bring it to the public and sell it and make it happen. So there's two different styles of leaders, two different strengths, two different sets of vulnerabilities, and two different stress patterns. That person that's the go-getter that gets out there and makes things happen, they're holding their stress in a very different way. It tends to be in the upper body. So there's going to be more of a propensity for heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, and so forth. And that other person that doesn't go to that intense place, that high vibrancy place, they stay more in the creative, the thoughts, the joy of creativity and concepts and all of this. They're going to have very different stress patterns. And so when you can see that, there's going to be more of a tendency to develop this disease or that based on your style, based on the way you use your stress. And it's not complicated. It's understanding who you are, understanding your style of leadership, and understanding all of them are good. We all have all five. There's five
Mhm.
different styles as I've created,
Mhm.
as I see it through my filter. There are five different styles of leadership, and all of them are valuable. Neither one is any better than the other. They're all just different. And we all have all five of them, but we may have them in different proportions, 40% of this, 30% of this, and then 6, 7, 8, whatever percentage of the others that all blend in. And so you look at, what are my strengths? What are my styles of leadership? And how can I utilize those, whether if I'm an entrepreneur, to take my company to the next level, because it lets me know who to bring in to support my company going where it needs to go. Or if you're in corporate, it allows you to understand that that ladder to the top isn't the same ladder for everybody. So
Mhm.
why are you taking on positions that don't fit your leadership style? They are going to cause you extreme stress.
Recipe
Extreme,
for
yeah,
frustration,
right.
recipe for stress.
Stressing yourself
So
out. Yeah, all of
let's
that happens.
let's very quickly, so you've given us two of the types. So the first type you gave us was the thought leader, is that
Right.
right? Okay, go ahead and give us those two and kind of how they show up again. And then we can chat a bit about those. And then let's go into the other three, because I think this is going to be super interesting to people. And as you're listening, I want you all to think about, where does stress show up in my body? Because that's
Right.
going to give you an idea of what you are. And then also listen to the description of that type of leader. Yeah, that sounds like me. And you can put those together. And then, of course, we're going to offer you a gift that's really amazing, and you'll be able to determine what you are.
Right.
So tell us about those first two again, if you would, Dr. Dorothy.
Certainly, the thought leader is that leader who is so creative, so
Hmm.
inspirational. They've got amazing ideas,
Hmm.
and what they can do is in the organization. If you're the entrepreneur, if you're the leader of your own organization, and this is your style, what's going to happen is that you've got some really great, unique, out of the box ideas that would be absolutely purposeful and productive in helping others out there in the world. Backing up, I believe every one of us come in here with a spiritual purpose. Every one of us came here in our own unique way of making this world a better place. So, whatever your way is, whatever your style is, if you're that creative leader and you've got, whether it's a service or a product, something that's there, know that your gift is in the creativity.
Hmm.
If you work for another organization and they've got products, you may find out lots of different ways in which they can use them to create other streams of income. This is a hugely valuable gift. If that's your style, if you're that creative leader, some of the emotional components for you are going to be existential fear. There's going to be anxiety about pretty much everything. The strength is going to be in that you have an amazing ability to see the big picture,
Hmm.
to be very creative, and
Visionary.
to really be highly spiritual and perhaps even psychic. So that is where those creative leaders come from, right?
Hmm.
The physical element of that is because they're so caught up in concepts and ideas and they get so excited about those things, they're not always present physically, which means they could be walking into a table. They don't know where they left their keys. They don't know where they left their glasses. Now they're a nervous wreck because they're going to be late because they can't find what they need to get out of the house.
I
And
especially love when my glasses are on top of my head and I'm saying, "Where are my glasses? Where are my glasses?" And they're right up there.
yeah, we all do that on occasion. For some people, however, that's a way of life. We all do it occasionally. But when it's a way of life, then this is probably who you are. The second style of leader is the team leader. They're the one who likes to create teams. They don't like to work alone. They want to always work in a team, and they create a culture for the team, what it's going to look like, how they're going to develop that, what's going to be the energy of the organization. And they have an amazing ability to take that culture, bring everybody into it, and really create a solid team that goes forward and makes things happen. That's their strength. When they are vulnerable, however, they can feel very needy. When they're healthy, they recognize the needs of everybody else, know how to meet them easily. It makes it happen, and the team gets stronger. When they're in fear and vulnerability, they feel very needy, as if nobody is there for them. They feel abandoned, and they can be those folks who can suck you dry in just a few minutes because of their neediness. What ends up happening is that in their strengths, however, they create a solid company, a solid department, or a solid organization that really thrives because no one person is carrying the load. And yet, what happens for them when they are vulnerable, when they're stressed, the diseases that can, those where some of the addictions can take place, whether it's workaholism, addictions to food, addictions to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, to whatever it may be. Hoarding would be an extreme of that. But when they are healthy, they are immensely profitable for the organization. The third style is a supportive leader, somebody who is there to support everybody. They're very loyal, hardworking folks that make things happen. They help everybody. They never want to be CEO. They have no need to be center stage. They want to be behind the person who's CEO. They may have 40, 100 people behind them. They're perfectly happy with that. It's just how they see themselves is they will be supporting the people behind them, helping them create their leadership, helping them become the best of who they can be, while they're also helping the people ahead of them shine and radiate for who they are. And that feeds their soul, that makes them happy to do that. Their strength is hardworking, they are loyal, they are committed. They will stay up with you till 3 in the morning to get that project done and not complain a moment. They love being able to help you make it happen. What happens is when they are vulnerable, they go into the illusion of powerlessness or victimization. They go into the illusion of giving so much that they believe they are loved because of what they do, not because of who they are. So they overgive to a point of exhaustion and perhaps illness. They don't know how to set a boundary and say, I've given as much as I can. I now need to stop and go take care of myself. There's guilt in that self-care. What ends up happening for them, the diseases that, because of how they hold their stress, breast disorders, breast cancer could be an issue for them. There is stomach issues that come about, digestive issues, because they're usually eating on the run. They don't take time for the self-care. They don't take time to stop and catch up with themselves. So they're so busy giving because that's the way in which they feel they are earning love, by giving and giving, right? And then the next is that visionary leader, that person who has that amazing ability to make things happen. And again, they may not be the least bit creative, but when they believe in your product, when they believe in your service, they could sell it to anybody. They've got charisma, they've got charm, they've got vibrancy, they've got personality, they've got that energy that draws people in. And they just are a presence. They own the room when they walk in the room. They got it. They know how to use that, and they can bring everybody to you. And what happens with those folks is, because they make things happen, they are charismatic, they are highly personable, they have a huge strength in bringing people to follow them. When they are in fear, however, they will go into the need for absolute control. And they can get control through intimidation. They can get it through seduction. They can get it through manipulation. But they will be in control. If they are in fear, they will need to be in control, because their belief is either you control me or I control you. And so they will struggle to have control. It's the only way that they feel safe. Right? When they're not in fear, they are just present, charismatic, and life is a gift, and they know it, and they live it, and they live it fully and passionately. So they are an inspiration to all of us, and how to come alive and really be present. The last is the organizational leader. They could work in a room by themselves with no windows, just put them in there. For every product you develop, they get to write procedures and protocols. They are our bankers. They are our architects. They are the folks who just love writing exact procedures and protocols. This is the way it goes. There's one right way to do it. And I get to make it happen in everything I write and everything I do. And that feeds them. But unfortunately, they can be so good at what they are doing. Somebody says, you are so good at what you're doing, I'm putting you in charge of this department. You're going to have 80 people under you. They don't want to work with people. They want to do what needs to get done, and they want to do it well. And so therefore they're put in a position where they fail. And now they feel like a failure or a phony who doesn't know what they're doing, when in fact they're phenomenal at what they do. It's just recognizing their style of leadership and how they excel allows them to follow a path, if they're in corporate, up a ladder that allows them to do that, versus going out and being in charge of all kinds of teams and expected to be creative and all kinds of other ideas. This is where they excel in doing what needs to get done logically. It works for them beautifully. And so when they are working at that, whether it's banking, architecture, or something with structure, because they love structure, it works. When they go into fear, they become extremely rigid. There is the right way, and we're going to do it the right way. And they end up being very exacting, which can be nerve-wracking for folks, especially the creative.
I was going to say the visionary will pull their hair out on that one.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do with structure. They live way out of the box. Structure just is a killer. It's a killer for them. A deader. Welcome to my English. But it really destroys them. It's not who they are. And so they are very creative over here and over here. They're very structured. There's a huge difference. And so in fear, they end up going into that rigidity. They go into that demand and expectation. And their belief is they are only valued when they are perfect. If they make a mistake, there is a huge fear that they don't even have the right to exist because they're not good enough. They are loved because they are perfect. They are loved because they are more than good enough. And good enough isn't enough. They have to be excellent. And one of the best doesn't feel too good. I want to be the best. So they are very competitive. They are high achievers. And so their stress is held in a particular way. And if you can imagine somebody who's called to rigidity when they're in fear, there's going to be this exactness. And what ends up happening is that if you were to watch them, you would never see their breath. You would never see them breathing. They don't take up that much space. They do it perfectly. They take small breaths. They don't really take their place on the planet because they're shrinking themselves in and being perfect. So they're making a very small, unemotional, they're not very connected to their emotions, a very small way of being present. And with that, there's minimal circulation. So they have circulation problems. They can have constipation problems. Their organs, their systems don't really pulsate vibrantly. So there's all kinds of difficulties that can take place with inner congestions, inner issues, and cysts and blocks and all kinds of things that take place through the whole digestive system. So so it's very different for all of us. Every one of these is a wonderful leadership style, and every one of them is needed. It's just we're all
And everyone has their weaknesses. And that's, as you were talking, I couldn't help thinking, how important it is. I can see pieces of myself, for example, and those of you listening, I'm sure you can see pieces of yourself in several of these, maybe in all of them. And so it's so important to understand what our primary one is and what our secondary one is so that we can balance. We can try to develop more in an area, or if we are the great big visionary or thought leader, we can make sure that we have someone who's the organizational, I would call it mechanic, who can follow through and create the protocols to support the vision. So we don't have to have it come from us, but we do need to make sure that we have that person on our team. Otherwise, we will not succeed, right? We need that. I know we've got to get closer to wrapping up, Dr. Dorothy, but this is just fascinating. And, in business, we can only be as strong as our team, really.
Right.
And so what would you say to people who are thinking, oh, wow, I'm really lacking X, Y, Z out of that list of 5. What would you say to them? What are some specific action steps they can take to, aside from getting somebody on their team who is like that, what are some other specific ways they could address that missing or weak link in their leadership?
One is to identify it. We all have all 5 of these. We just, as I said earlier, have them in different proportions. We may have 40% of the thought leader, or 40% of the visionary, or 50% of the visionary, and then 15% of something else, and then smaller percentages down here. Welcome to life. Thank God we're all unique. We're all different in how we do this. But if you're in a business and you know where your strengths are, you know where your leadership style is, if you're not in a financial situation yet to bring in a partner or to bring in a VP or an executive director, whatever it may be for you, you're not in a position to financially bring that in. What kind of VAs are you using? What kind of virtual assistants do you have? My virtual assistant, God bless her, she says, okay, every Monday morning I say, okay, just a reminder now, I need your newsletter before Wednesday. I need this in, I need this in. Thank you very much, because I'm not really great on detail. So she will do this, this, and this, and it's all set to roll. And she's perfect for me. She is the kind of VA that I need. Somebody who is exact, who knows what needs to get done, who will ask me, okay, I need information on this and on this and on this. And it's like, wow, what a great idea. I never would have thought of doing that. But she has that strength. And so I have her. I have another VA that does graphic design, not my gift. I will never be a good artist. All right. Great. That's his gift. That's what I use him for. So that my team and I have more, but that's enough. But my team each has different strengths.
Mhm.
So as a team, I am supported with my VA that does the exact, that really is the head of my organization here. She runs all of these pieces and does it beautifully. She can bring in contractors that she knows we're really good to fix the website, that we're really good to do this.
Mhm.
I don't have the skills. Could I develop it? Yes, I'm intelligent. I could develop it. Why?
It
Why?
would take so much more energy.
Oh,
That's where I love
frustrate
positive
energy,
psychology.
time, frustration.
Yes,
Instead of doing what I love to do, which is why entrepreneurs form their own companies, because they
yes,
want to do what feeds their soul, what they love to do. I then can have other people do it. And my thought is I'm helping them have a successful company. So each of
yes.
them gets to be fed, each of them succeeds. So I'm giving back as well as receiving from all the people that are on that team. Right. So everybody is winning. And so
Okay, y'all, listen to this. Work from your strengths. Use your
yes,
strengths. Work from your strengths. This is like positive psychology 101. Make sure that you work from your strengths, because if you try to bring a weakness up to the level of your strength, it's just going to irritate the hell out
oh
of you.
God.
And it's going to take so much time, and then let other people find other people who work from their strengths, which are not yours, so that you can all create this very holistic team that has covered basically all the strengths you need in business. I love that. So
Right.
powerful.
And either your company is at the level where you have a board of advisors or a board of directors. And if you're not at that place yet, do you have an accountability partner? Do you have somebody who is a peer or slightly ahead of you in his or her business? And they can be an accountability partner.
Yes.
You meet once a week, every 2 weeks, whatever you need. I have one I meet every Thursday at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
We get together and we're accountability partners for each other. You said you were going to do that this week. Did you do it? And it's funny because even if 20 other things come up during the course of the week, on Wednesday night before I'm going to meet with her on Thursday, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm out there
You'll get
making
it
it
done.
happen because I said I would make it happen. But what a gift. That isn't because I'm frightened she's going to be mad at me or not like me. It's because
Yeah.
I want somebody that calls me to do my best, to be my best. And so therefore it's like, ooh, I want to get this done. I committed that to me and I committed that to her. So yes, bring in accountability. That doesn't cost money. And you bring in what you need at each stage of your business. And even when you're highly successful, you're
Yeah,
making 7, 8, it doesn't
especially.
matter. Having an accountability partner
Yeah.
is an amazing gift you give yourself.
We need multiple ones. And in fact, I have in my Make It Happen Mastermind, I have an accountability group. It's not
There
just
you
one
go.
person. And
There
we
you go.
really absolutely all need that. Well, it's really time for us to wrap. But first of all, before I know you and I could talk forever, and uh, here's the thing, you all. I know you haven't had enough of Dr. Dorothy. I just know
Oh,
you
you're
haven't.
sweet.
So here's the good thing, is that you get to have more of Dr. Dorothy, because she's going to give us something that's going into the freebie vault. Woohoo! Woohoo! So tell us very quickly, what is it that you're giving our listeners?
What I will be giving to anybody who is listening to this is an ebook I have written. It's called Owning Your Leadership. And within that, it has all of these things I'm telling you about. It has my leadership self-assessment tool in a PDF format. And it really goes into how to be the most effective leader that you're capable of becoming, with emotional intelligence, with mindfulness, with understanding your why and holding on to your why throughout your career, because your why never changes. It may change in how you express it, but it doesn't change in what it is. Mine changed. I was a social worker, then a therapist, then a psychologist, then a coach. The same art of giving and supporting, it changes in expression, but the why never changes. It's to help others become their best, to claim why they're here and go and run it. So it really goes into all of that. And again, goes into the leadership self-assessment tool that's there included within it. It's yours. Enjoy it. Grow in it. And I just want all of us to become the best leaders. The world needs effective, healthy leaders. And the
Absolutely.
more we can put out there, the better. This
And
is
we've got to lead ourselves. That's the
yes.
other thing. You've got to be a leader in your own life.
Yeah.
Be the leader in your own life, which is exactly what we're talking about here, and
Yes.
understanding where your Achilles heel is, understanding where your weaknesses are, and getting other people who are strong in those areas
Right.
so that you can be your biggest, boldest, badass you. So, you all, here's the great news. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Guess what? The freebie vault is now active. Woohoo! And here's how you access it. And this means, as of you listening, my lovely listeners, my badass tribe, guess what? When you go to HTTPS and then the little dots, the colon, and 2 slashes, right? bit.ly/ free from Dr. B. All right, so that's it. bit.ly/ free from Dr. B. And the cool thing is that you can say, oh, I want to go get Dr. Dorothy's ebook with the self-assessment for leadership. That's great. But when you go into the vault, you're going to get access to thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts from our badass guests. So
Mhm.
not only can you get that from Dr. Dorothy, but you can get a host of other incredible gifts there. All of that given to you, thousands and thousands of dollars given to you as gifts from all of these badasses. It's our joy to serve you, and having your biggest, baddest, boldest impact on the planet, which you are meant to have. In fact, I charge you with having that impact on the planet. There's no time to waste. You are a badass, or you would not be listening to this episode. So, Dr. Dorothy, I want to thank you for being with us, for giving us such a fascinating take on leadership, one that is very, very needed, and one that will help everyone listening who goes and grabs your ebook at bit.ly/ free from Dr. B. It's so easy to remember, y'all. Free from Dr. B. Woohoo! You all, it's been an amazing episode, hasn't it? Be sure to pop something up in the comments. Be sure to share this with someone you love, someone you care about, who could use some upliftment, who has a
Mhm.
business and wants to really have their biggest business possible. Share it and help us continue to serve you with the Bold Badass Business Show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Dorothy, and
you.
I'll see you all back next week. Same time, same place.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Barnsley Brown,
Bye bye.
to badassery.